Hello, it's me, Jess. Welcome to my channel. And today we are doing a lovely reading on what have they heard about you. So I've got 3 piles here, pile number 1, pile number 2, pile number 3. By the way, I know this card is upside down. It really wanted to come out this way, so I probably won't have it that way in the thumbnail. You probably have already noticed, but I'm just leaving it there because it's really speaking to me. So, all right, I've got 3 piles here. I will put the picture up so you can meditate, be drawn to your pile. Potentially you could be drawn into more than one pile. Just a reminder, if you feel like you are getting your own energy ricocheted back at you, it's always good practice to choose another pile and see if that one resonates a little better. And then oftentimes the 2 piles together can help you put together a more cohesive picture of what tarot is trying to illuminate for you here about the situation. So I've got 3 piles. I'll put the picture up and I will see you at your reading. So pile number 1, what has this person heard about you? Okay, so right away, I feel like this person has heard that you're doing really well for yourself in some way, shape, or form, probably monetarily, like you're very stable. And I'm hearing cleaned up. I feel like this person has been hearing, and for some of you, they've observed this, or somebody else has observed you. I'm kind of picturing people like out to dinner, like maybe you went out to dinner with some friends and it's like you said no to like alcohol or something like that, just as an example. And maybe that was unusual for you or something, but I think that you've done something or mentioned something kind of offhanded, and it was observed like in a group of people, and that's how it's kind of gotten back here to this person, that you're making different choices, healthier choices. That's what it feels like. Specifically for some of you, I feel like maybe it's like AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, or it could be just like you finding spirituality and becoming more spiritual and trying to live up to some kind of higher ideal or purpose for yourself, and that's actually being reflected in your decisions. And this has kind of got back to this person, and unfortunately I feel like this person is very defensive about this, because maybe this is somebody that you used to partake in certain like a certain lifestyle with, and that was like the basis that your connection was kind of founded on. So this person is actually feeling kind of triggered, or that or even rejected. It's like because they're really taking this, like, because you've made these certain changes, that you're suggesting that they should too, or that they're not good enough for you, or something like that. And in reality, I don't think that you have done that at all. I think this person knows somewhere on the inside that they should make some changes, some healthier changes for themselves, and they just really don't feel up to it here at this current time, because they feel like they would be kind of like sacrificing something. So this person is being very defensive here about the things that they are hearing about you. But I do feel like observation is like a big part of what they're hearing. They could be observing you, especially like from a distance or online. I'm hearing that. I'm hearing this person can see that the proof is in the pudding, that you are doing really well for yourself. Your coming up here is like very beautiful, like extremely beautiful, financially independent. Doing really well for yourself. For some of you, they're hearing that you're in a relationship with another person, and maybe this person was maybe thinking about offering you something, maybe rekindling your relationship or taking your relationship to the next level, and they are feeling like they are not measuring up. So there's a lot of emotionality that's coming in from this person's side of things, and I kind of feel like this is spirit at work here, where spirit is trying to have this person kind of swish this idea of making changes around in their mouth a little bit, just see how it would feel if they were to try to make these changes, and they're feeling less than, and they're feeling angry. And I'm hearing like poking the bear, like this person is really feeling quite defensive, and they're sad. There is something here to do with their family, but I'm really getting that there's some kind of an addiction here. Like I was saying, it could be to alcohol, it could be to drama, it could be to a third party situation. I'm not really sure, but it seems to have authority over this person's inner spirit, and it's like they try to keep it hidden. And I feel like there's a group of people, maybe that's the sacrifice they feel like they would need to make. Maybe this person was out. I don't know. Like, there could be a group of people in common here. Or I think there is. And for some of you, that group of people could be the same people that both y'all turn up with. But if it's not, then I feel like this person sort of has this other group and this other life and this other side to themselves that they kind of try to keep hidden. Because I think this person likes to come off earthy or like traditional, or like they have their stuff together, but kind of behind the scenes they don't. But it is something that they try to hide. It is something that they try to sweep under the rug. I do feel like this person could feel that they need to sacrifice a family as well, or a group of people that feel like family. Maybe they've had their back in certain situations, because I feel like this person, I don't think they're quite realizing that maybe it's like this kind of lifestyle or this group of people that they're with actually has gotten them into quite a few situations that they wouldn't have been in otherwise. It's kind of, yeah, I'm here like giveth and then taketh away, it's kind of like people who are very manipulative, specifically. Like I'm thinking of, it's just like that thing of, you create the problem and then you offer the solution for the problem. But this group of people, or this addiction, whatever it is, it creates the problem, but then it offers the solution for the problem. And this person is not really ready or willing to admit that here to themselves. But they hear that you're doing really well, that you're looking really good, that you're beautiful, that you're very stable, that you're making very positive changes in your life. Like I said, I think there's something about your energy where you used to be more submissive, maybe to this person, but now you're more dominant. That's what I'm noticing in the hand with the offering, because palms up is more vulnerable and open, and palms down is more dominant and more just like kind of very matter of fact. So I feel like whatever these changes are that you're making in your life, it's like you are very matter of fact about it. You're showing up here as a leader. I feel like you're doing really well in work or career or something like that. And again, I feel like this person's not feeling like they are measuring up. This person could have heard about a specific incident here as well, where you were observed, like maybe by this group of friends, where you were going out for dinner or something like that, and maybe you didn't show up because you were trying to make healthier choices for yourself. Like maybe this was back in the day, and it's like you knew you couldn't afford it, you were trying to save up your money or something, so you just didn't go out. Or like you went out to dinner, but like you didn't have you turned down the wine that everybody was having or something like that, and this person, and it was noticed. I don't think it was necessarily made a big deal of, but it was a small thing for people to notice, but it was indicative of like a larger change that you had been making in your life for the better, and a growing confidence. There's something growing within you, like confidence or stability, something here like that. Like it's coming through very, very positive. and it has like this person has been hearing about like your routines, and like I said, maybe it is maybe you're growing your own food, or you're eating like, you're not eating processed foods or something like that. That could have been the thing too. Like if you're going out to eat and you're like trying to eat, make healthier choices on the menu or something. Like I said, it feels almost like a small change, but because it was coming from you, and because maybe that just was an unusual behavior, it really, people like have been harping on it, or it like really stuck out to people, and that's what they're telling people about you. And I don't think these people are necessarily like trash talking or anything like that. But just in hearing this, it sparked this person's defensive attitude, because he's got this like big shield and, his armor on, and like his face is all scrunched up. Like, wait a minute, like, what are you trying to say, And they're really trying to maybe hide their more negative behaviors. This person's just kind of in a bad place. They're not really feeling great. So this person feels like maybe you walked away from them, and so now they don't know what to do. I feel like this person's kind of confused. They're confused by like these two people in front of them, like you, the two versions of you, like who you used to be, and this change that you're making for yourself. They're confused about maybe like a change in your values, or like you actually living your values that maybe you just talked about before, but you're actually like, really making a go of it. Maybe this person is like, okay, well, now we have this difference in values, maybe a difference in your money situations. Would we be able to hang out? Would we be able to be together? This person is feeling really, really unsure of themselves. And in regards of you, because I think this person was thinking about reaching out, or thinking about reconnecting or offering you something. For some of you, it's like this person, I'm almost seeing this as like a token, like a ring. Maybe they wanted to maybe they thought you were like, their person. They wanted to maybe like, this is going to be extreme. It won't be for everybody, but like ask you to marry them, or give you something. This person wanted to give you something. And then when they saw what they saw, or they heard what they heard, then they were kind of second guessing whether or not you would want to accept it. For some of you, this person may have something of yours that they wanted to return, or something like a little token of their appreciation, but it's like it feels small. Like to this person it feels small, and it's a token of their love. So I feel like to you it wouldn't be small. Like, to you it would be precious, to you it would be big, and it's nice, like whatever it is. But this person just thinks that maybe it's not enough for you, or like compared to what it is that you already have, this person can't offer you something. So yeah, I'm just getting something like just falling out of their hands here. And this person could have, I think they have regrets here about something from the past. And it could have been a third party situation. It could have been that this negative coping mechanism, which for some of you, this third party situation is the negative coping mechanism. For some of you, I'm strongly feeling there's alcohol. There's something to do with alcohol here. Maybe a mixture here of both. Maybe alcoholism could potentially run in their family. I'm not sure. Don't make that fit if it doesn't fit, because addiction can really be anything. I'm just getting that energy come through strongly for a number of people, and they feel like it confused them, or it. But see, this person may not be drawing those lines to the fact that it is whatever this addiction is, that is actually causing the problems, like I was saying. But they think back to a time in the past where maybe they had a choice to make, they had a lot on their plate, and you were offering them the higher cup, and they were busy ruminating and maybe considering other options, considering other choices. But I don't feel like this person was in the best state of mind. I feel like they were under the thumb of whatever. For some of you, it's like there could be somebody very authoritative in their family that they specifically hearing like a father. It's coming through like emperor energy, so it's like an authority in their family that is very domineering and causes them a lot of stress, and they're always kind of trying to hide from this person in some way, shape, or form. And I feel like there could be a connection like with money or something like that. Maybe on that one the energies are reversed and they're hearing that about you, but most of these people, I feel like that's something that they're dealing with. And again, it's like they feel like they would need to make some kind of big sacrifice in order to come towards you and offer whatever it is that they want to offer. But they've heard that you're doing really well here just at this current time. So this person they want you to see them as your partner. They want you to see them as abundant and like having a lot to give, having a lot to offer. They want you to see them as wise. But now it's like you've broken apart in some way from this person and from the path that you were on that was leading you to this person. So they're in a place of stagnation. They are maybe spending some time alone. For some of these people, I'm hearing they're refusing to get out of this state that they're in. They're refusing to get out of the state that they're in, but they really want to, because I feel like this person does want to like follow you. There feels like a strong pull here towards your energy from this person. Yeah, new opportunities, possibilities, and paths opening up. They've heard that for you, that there's these new paths opening up. I mean, they could feel like you're already with someone and that maybe you've had a choice. And now that this person wants to come back and offer you their cup. Younger woman, dealings or relationship with a younger woman. You could be a younger woman, younger than this person. And that's just confirmation for you. Or I'm hearing younger women. Maybe there's like a group. There could potentially be like a friendship here with a younger woman. But yeah, you've been on some kind of long journey here. Look at all this pentacles energy, earthy energy that's coming through. Long journey, either physical or mental, will leave you wiser at the end. And I feel like it's been especially mental, because I feel like I said, you're making some kind of positive changes, first in your mindset and your values, and it's showing up in your routine, which has shown up here in this pentacle space, which tells me maybe you've been at this for a while. Celebration, fun, or enjoyment. Yeah, maybe this person, I am kind of getting that. Maybe this person has heard something about a party. I think this person was going to offer you something, maybe at a celebration or at a party or something, but then they heard that you didn't show up, or because you'd gone down kind of a different path. Yeah, so you'll be playing a different role. I feel like this person may have too much concern with sexual matters. Like I think there's a lot of sexual attraction here, but that could be part of what they're trying to hide here, because this rabbit is like very hidden. And maybe they feel like they'll be playing a different role in your life now, because there seems to have been like, I'm kind of getting this as a crossroads where you have really separated out from, this person. And maybe that caused a tower moment for them. They were like, I just don't know. And yeah, okay, literally Mithras rules over the bull cult, and now we've got the bull coming out. Do not back down from opposition, show strength and fortitude. This person is synthesizing your change and your growth and development as like some kind of challenge to them. And if you do have somebody else in your life, then this person has great pride with this peacock energy, but they may be projecting this out onto you because you're doing so well. But that doesn't make you arrogant, and it doesn't make you prideful. And so this person is like, there's a lot coming out here about this person and how they're synthesizing it. Because I just feel like there could have been a switch in your roles, where in the past, this person was maybe older or wiser or like had more to offer you. And now the roles have reversed. And this person's very uncomfortable with that. Very uncomfortable. And they are, again, they're synthesizing this as like, okay, well, don't back down. You know that quote? Okay, I feel like this person's in a sensitive place. And I'm trying to be like very soft with their energy here. This is actually a new opportunity for them, for this person. This is a doorway to seeing something differently, particularly something about their family and whatever has had a grip on their soul and on their progress. You are the doorway is what I'm getting. You are the archway that is showing them maybe how precarious their situation is. And they want to consider what you're saying too, or these changes that you've made. They want to consider it. They really do. But I was just getting ready to say something. Okay, yeah. That how I'm really not trying to hurt this person, because I feel like this person's in a delicate state, and it's just like, if I'm going to try to explain to you the truth, well, this person, it would kind of sting, I feel like, to hear this. I understand. But that quote that says like, somebody's a weak man's version of a strong man, a less intelligent person's idea of a intelligent person, a not successful person's idea of a successful person. Like whatever it is, it's like when you imagine something, but you imagine it from a state of lack, then a lot of times it can be overdone. And particularly I'm hearing the word bravado. So it's like this person is feeling weak. And I do feel like, this lifestyle that they're a part of, that I think maybe runs in their family, that they're attached to for some kind of money, whether this is probably family of origin I'm getting, but there could be a family business that's involved here, something like that. That maybe they're counting on inheriting. We've seen that energy before. And that this person actually feels pretty weak. They feel that way on the inside, but then they think that they're supposed to be strong, and they want, like I said, they want to present as strong to you, and that they have a lot to offer. Whether they're showing up as Jupiter, they want to show up as Jupiter, and Jupiter exalts in Cancer, but they're showing up in Capricorn, and Jupiter actually it's the opposite of exalt, debilitates in Capricorn. So it's actually a weakened position for Jupiter, but they still want to show up as Jupiter, and Jupiter rules over husband in astrology. But it also rules over wealth and abundance and growth and expansion and knowledge and wisdom. So they want to be seen in that light. I think they're actually seeing you in this light as like your cup runneth over. Maybe you're younger than this person and they have a problem with that. Pay attention to your work. Yeah, I feel like this person maybe needs to pay attention, and they're on the right path. I feel like maybe they're not. Maybe they need to pay attention to their work. We were on the right path regarding some aspect of your life. Oh, okay, that has to do with you. But they're not on the right path in regards to their job or career, and maybe that's linked up with a family's business, I don't know, or like inheritance. So they're not, and I feel like, again, you are the archway. That's what I'm getting for this person. You are the archway for this person. And you're supposed to, like, you're not supposed to do anything. This is kind of Empress energy. It's being energy. It's feminine. The feminine just is. It's nothing that you're doing. It's like you just living your life and being observed by whoever you've been observed by that's gotten back to this person, or maybe by this person themselves. I'm hearing that song, She's So High Above Me. She's so lovely. And I'm hearing the word jealousy. So I think this person feels threatened. That's what I'm getting. It's like they're jealous of people who get to be around you. They're jealous maybe of your circumstances, of what you've built for yourself, of how you're maybe prospering in some way. And again, I keep getting like maybe you went down a different path. You turned a corner that this person's really struggling to. I just heard people pleasing, like maybe because I feel like this person tries to people please their family, potentially, or people who feel like family, but this could be a group that is hidden, seedy, like it's like they only hang out at night in the bar, and I don't know, something like that. It's like a hidden group, where I'm hearing a hidden group where they have hidden behaviors that they do not want the rest of the world to know about, because it would affect the way that they are seen, because this person very much wants to be seen in the light that you are seen in. Okay, so let's get some messages here from this person. Look, this isn't over between us. I'm coming back for you. I think that I'm hearing this was their plan all along, to come back for you. And maybe they wanted to make the changes that you have made for yourself, and the fact that they haven't, and then seeing you do so well is like really, it's bringing up stuff from within. And I'm sure it's painful, but just because it's painful doesn't mean that it's wrong. It's actually, you're the archway. This is like Spirit is trying to get this person to pause, stall, to look at things from a different perspective and to make different choices, is what I'm hearing. Just like you did. I feel like you're kind of illuminating the path for this person. Not that they need to take all the same steps that you did, although potentially. But it's like you're showing this person, I think, that it can be done. I'm hearing he can be taught from Aladdin. Okay, so what this person is trying to guard their heart here as well. And like with the crab, they're kind of trying, I feel like this person can be trying to move around you. They could potentially know people from your family, or maybe it's people from their family that are telling them these things, or from a group that feels like family, or potentially if you guys have ever worked in a restaurant, that's like also very strong energy that's coming through. Or it's like you always met at a certain restaurant, maybe you meet once a month for some kind of meeting at a certain restaurant. Let's see here. I'm working on myself each day so I can come back to you. That's what this person wants to do, but I feel like they're at this decision-making moment. I never want to see you again. You hurt me. Maybe we are better off separated. I think this person, I'm kind of feeling like they potentially could have hurt you, and they're feeling this way. But, I'm not sure that some of you have said this to this person directly. I think that they're seeing that you're doing, okay, I'm literally hearing this, that they see that you're doing better off without them, or they're hearing that. But there's something about observation here in this pile. And so this person is like, maybe they're better off without me. Like this person, maybe, I feel like they wanted to marry you, dude. Like if you're asking about a love interest, please forgive me. I know I messed up. Please give me a second chance. This person wanted to come back for a second chance. They know that they messed up here. They know that they did, but they're They're still feeling guarded and protected. I hope to have a future with you one day. No matter what happens, my heart will always belong to you. This is this person's energy. Yeah, like I'm hearing, did I hurt you so bad? Like, is this irreconcilable? Is this irreparable? Like, and I think you've closed the door maybe from these behaviors. And I really am thinking about like AA, where, they can't go back into like the bars that they used to. They can't hang out with the people that they were hanging out with when they were using or when they were drinking. They can't do that. It's puts too much at risk. And there's something here like that with you. But I don't think you've said any of this. I love you so much no matter what. There's a lot of love here though. A lot of love here. I kind of feel like that's like, I think you love this person no matter what. Even if you can't be around them because maybe it puts yourself at risk in some way, or because, the Eight of Cups, this is like the Eight of Cups is her walking away from filled cups. So you grew into your power here, and then you made some very difficult decisions with the King of Swords. That's what I'm getting. And you have a plan. I feel like you're a person who kind of follows and executes a plan. You were able to recognize that you weren't getting anywhere somewhere, like that it was a functioning dysfunction. You needed to move away from some kind of pain. I feel like you had some kind of new beginning or some kind of new realization, and you found, maybe for some of you, you found like a relationship, a soulmate, or you found a group of people that felt like home, that shared your values. Oh, look, the High Priestess. This could be us. This could be spiritual types, like all of us tapping into each other's energy here. You found Sangha, spiritual community. I just heard strength. There's strength in numbers. I'm seeing like an energetic melding with like a lot of people, and it's actually bolstering your energy, like your strength even more. And this person just doesn't know what to make of all this. They just don't know what to make of all this because they're feeling rejected. This person is ultimately feeling rejected from what they're seeing. Oh my gosh, I love you tomorrow. I love you today, tomorrow, and always. I was just a fool for not admitting it earlier. This person has a lot of regrets for the way that they've handled things. I struggle with revealing my true feelings and emotions, but I love you more than you think. Yeah, this person loves you a lot. I miss our conversations and the sound of your voice. There's so much love that's coming through here. Yeah, and you, I think, really are a huge factor for this person working on I'm literally hearing working on their sobriety, working on showing them how different life can be. And showing them, I think you've given this person some kind of key, I'm hearing like you've given this person some kind of knowledge or realization. You've gifted them this. Maybe that's your offering, and maybe you feel like this person didn't accept it. I think you feel this person rejected your offer, maybe for like stable commitment, to have something more traditional. To show up, to be committed. And you had to be independent. You went off on your own. I'm hearing inner child healing here with this Page of Pentacles. I think this is a love, something that you have to do for. And it did open up different options and new possibilities here. There was like some kind of new avenue that was opened up here because you really had no choice but to walk away from this, is kind of what I'm getting. Because maybe it was like disrespect of yourself. So I feel like I've been talking for an age, but it really is beautiful energy coming from this side. I feel like this is a very high vibrational connection in the sense that there is so much love here, genuinely. I feel like this person does love you, but I can see that they're wrapped up in something that maybe is seedier. Maybe maybe you weren't even aware. I think you just saw this person's indecision, or that there was a third party situation. You saw something, but Mithras with this bull cult, they used to meet in these caverns underground that were secret. And so I don't think you saw that necessarily, but you saw enough to kind of know that this person was wrapped up in something that you didn't understand or you didn't know about fully. And I think you really had no choice but to reject their offer. And I think they're seeing that now. And so I think you've given this person a new perspective on like whatever habit they thought this was. They thought it was coping, but now they're starting to realize that it's in devil energy, where it creates the problem but then offers to solve the problem, and that they're not actually getting to the root of something, and they're just sitting on the precipice. This person's very much sitting on the precipice of and I'm hearing this person's journey like is a lot internal right now, like a lot internal. They're being encouraged by spirit to just swish around different things in their mind, different perspectives, different choices. They might be spending a lot of time alone right now. I'm hearing sacrifice or be sacrificed. So I'm kind of wondering, it's like, is this person, it's almost like they need to make a choice to give something up, or it will be done for them. Something like that. And I feel like it's the key to this person's spiritual journey and spiritual realization, because especially if there is some kind of like regular, like like a heavy drinking or something, I think it's clouding this person's judgment. And it did in the past too. So that's what I have for you guys. Pile number 1. This was heavy, but you probably already know that. You probably already know this is a heavy situation, but they're hearing all good things about you. And a lot came in this reading about their journey, because I do feel this is a spiritual connection, and I do feel like it's having an impact. If this person has popped up into your awareness lately, it's because you're soulmates, you're deep soulmates, and you are having this huge, profound, I feel like your energies are very much melded, and you're having this huge impact. You are the impetus that is kind of sparking this big change. And maybe that was always the plan, pile 1, maybe that was always the plan. To help, if it came to this, to like help this person turn it around. So, yeah, lots of love and light to you. I can see that you're doing really well. And I think it's important for you to know just how much you've potentially inspired other people. I think from your side, it's either making simple changes, or it's like you just living your life in accordance with your values, which can be difficult for us sometimes, but it's like, if you value health, like you're eating your healthy foods. If you value, it's like you're just actually trying to live it. And it's the small things that are the most inspiring, is what I'm hearing. And I think that's something that you're learning about yourself. And you're seen very highly. This person sees you very, very highly. It's just they have this thing that's like looming over them. And I think it's an addiction. But then that addiction seems to be tied to some kind of family that they see as like, I just heard a security blanket, and then some kind of group that's like hidden in the bar, it's not really advertised that they have this other side to them, Okay, so that's what I have for you guys, pile number 1. If that resonated, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Bye, guys. go. Pile number 2. What has this person heard about you? Okay, buckle up, pile number 2. This is a highly significant spiritual connection. And I feel like you probably already know that, or you have an inkling towards that if you've been drawn into this reading and into this pile in order to explore probably very intense feelings and curiosity that you have here about your connection to this other person. So because of that, there are some other kinds of messages that want to emerge here in this reading. Now, I know that's not everybody's cup of tea, and we will start exploring this question of what has this person heard about you through a more mundane lens first, but this really is the kind of message that needs to flow as it's meant to flow. And just keep in mind that as we progress through the message, we will get deeper and deeper into the more spiritual aspects and implications of this particular connection. I am hearing very specifically that a lot of you have been asking questions, maybe very fervently within yourself or your journal, or you have been praying about this or asking your guides certain questions, and you've actually called forth some of the information here in this reading. So some of that information that doesn't fall into alignment with the direct question is just falling into alignment with the specific processes that many of you are going through in a very intense way. And this is an attempt to assist you in that process. Okay, so getting into what has this person heard about you? Well, this actually becomes kind of a complicated question for this group because I can very clearly see that each of you are hearing certain things about each other on the 3D, like in meet space from your friends, people you know, etc. But you're also, quote unquote, hearing things about each other on what a lot of people call the 5D. And what I mean by that is maybe it's coming through like just like an intuitive hit or an intuitive knowing. It's coming up like oracally or psychically or through dreams, but you know that there's some aspect of truth to it. And so when we ask like, what has this person heard about you? It adds this interesting extra layer to that question here with this group. And that is because of the highly significant spiritual nature of this connection. Now, I can see that central to this connection and central to this message are a couple of different themes. The first is reconciliation. And I mean that in a very robust sense of the word. Yes, reconciliation on the 3D, which may or may not happen in this lifetime. The reason it's up in the air is because that pathway to reconciliation is by way of a kind of reconciliation process that is happening internally for each of these two people, yourself included, right? Individually and from within. Now, to reconcile is one of those fancy words in the English language that has a double meaning or that just has multiple meanings. And we've talked about this on the channel before, but one of those meanings is kind of has like a balancing your checkbook financial sort of an application where you reconcile your bank account, That's very karmic word. So I feel like both of these people, they have their own version of a reconciliation process that has to do with reconciling. It's different for each of them, but it's things like reconciling your head and your heart. Things like reconciling your worldview and your actual actions, your feelings and reality, what is fantasy and reality, things like that. And when both of these people complete their own internal reconciliation process, that is what elevates their vibration or puts them on a vibratory level where they naturally will be brought into reconciliation with the other person on the 3D. And you might not be able to pinpoint exactly why, but it's something that is a driving force within both of you. You both sense that you actually really do want that. You're very motivated. So it's almost like, and we've seen this before, this carrot, this white rabbit that is being used to guide you through a very divine spiritual process that is unfolding step by step. So try to be patient with that. Now, the second theme that I'm really seeing as being central to this connection, but also like this message, has to do with rebirth. It's literally all over this reading. Now, I'm kind of relating to that theme via the Christian concept of being born again. This isn't a commentary on Christianity or its teachings. It's just like that metaphor. So in the Christian teachings, the first birth is the physical birth, and then being born again refers to the second spiritual birth. Usually it corresponds with a confirmation process or baptism where you kind of become an initiate, and you become determined to see the world through spiritual eyes and to engage in furthering your spiritual process, and you view life and you view the things that unfold in your life as a vehicle for you to unfold spiritually. That's what I feel like actually both of these souls are doing through this process with each other. They're meant to potentially go through periods of stagnation, and they may actually have more of an impact on one another's periods of stagnation than they consciously realize, in order to get this different perspective, to see the world through a more spiritual lens, to see the situation and the other person through a spiritual lens. And not only that, but I feel like this is meant to awaken some kind of psychic or intuitive gifts, which is why, yes, like I think you do actually receive information about each other through, I don't know, auras, some kind of psychic ability, dreams, or perhaps like different spiritual modalities. And that is helping both of you to awaken. Okay, sorry, I had to tend to my little Luna cat. But the last thing I wanted to say as this like little introductory portion is the last thing I'm drawn to is the re prefix of those two words, which in English, re means to try again, to do over. And that's another thing that we've seen here in this connection time and time again, where I get that this is some kind of a karmic situation from like past lives that involves two soulmates, and that these two soulmates are trying their hand at this again to try and do better, to try and reconcile what they need to within themselves so they can actually reconcile on the physical, because these are two soulmates that really actually do want to be together. They're very determined, and spirit can actually use that sense of love and drive to progress them both spiritually. It's actually really beautiful. So moving into the actual meat and potatoes of this message, like what has this person heard about you, right? Keeping in mind that they're hearing some things on the 3D and some things on the 5D. So there's something, okay, so first of all, on the 3D, first of all, I don't think that each of you are hearing as much as you wish that you could, because you are both very curious about the other person. You find them to be interesting. You want to keep up with what it is that they are doing. So I think it's sparse, or at the very least, it's just you don't hear as much from this person as you would like to. But whenever you do hear something about each other, it has this really interesting paradoxical effect where usually when you hear something about a person, it has this more like narrowing, clarifying effect where you kind of think like, oh, okay, that makes sense about you. I feel like I understand you better now. But I almost think it has the opposite effect with whatever it is that you're hearing about each other on the 3D, where you walk away from whatever it is that you heard feeling like you have more questions than answers now. And I think it potentially could be very frustrating for both of you, because it's like whoever you're hearing whatever piece of news from, I think you want to ask that person like 100 follow-up questions. Like, what do you mean this? Like, or what does that mean? Or is it this or is it that? But whoever you're asking, they don't actually know. Maybe they make something up. Maybe they just are like, I don't know. And so I think what ends up happening is that both of you have a very difficult time then actually funneling each other's energy into a category. And we've talked about that 100 times on my channel, where our brains love to do that, to shove people, places, and things into these pre-prescribed categories as a calorie saving function. And then our brains just reference that category instead of actually relating in real time, because it's a very calorie intensive process to openly relate, right? So because you can't just shove the other person neatly into a category, it actually is very beautiful. I think it keeps this relationship evergreen and kind of open. You can't ever really close it or feel like you have come to some kind of a conclusion, which keeps your curiosity alive, which keeps this from stagnating, and it means that you can actually access this to progress on some kind of spiritual pathway. Again, it's actually really, really beautiful. Now, in terms of what this masculine energy has heard about this feminine, because I feel like most of you are the feminine energy that have come here to this reading, although we will flip this as the reading progresses to what this feminine has heard about this masculine, and we will get into the more spiritual aspects of what all of this means. But this is actually really funny, because I think it was actually the masculine energy in this connection who had like, I want to say some kind of like psychic knowing, some kind of strong intuitive hit that like this was his feminine, that in some, however he related to that, I think he just knew that like this was his soulmate, this was his woman, this was his future spouse. But because he doesn't have the spiritual perspective, I think he misunderstood what that meant. And mostly how I think he misunderstood this is that he made a lot of assumptions that were just untrue and he had no right making, which then affected his behavior. And I think I'm hearing the word entitlement. So it's like somehow it led to like him being more selfish or thinking like, okay, well, basic something along the lines of, and this is going to be extreme, but I'm just trying to give you a flavor of this, where it's like, what's she really going to do? It's not like she can get away from me because I'm her soulmate. So if I do stumble, or if I need to, do this, and this before I'm ready to settle down, like, what's she really going to do? And obviously that's a very perverted, horrible perspective to have, but I think that shook out some way, shape, or form here in this connection. I don't think that he meant to necessarily hurt her. I do actually, but he may have, because of this like kind of spiritual misunderstanding. Anyways, getting on to what this masculine has heard, more recently. Now it's interesting because see how this feminine's eyes are closed and she's like going within. So I think this feminine is actually going through a process where she's not seeing this masculine, but look, this masculine can see this feminine, which always makes me think like social media, or if this masculine doesn't have your social media, then I think whoever he's hearing certain things from, they're doing a lot more than talking. Like they could potentially be bringing up pictures of you, or like actually pulling up your social media that they potentially have access to and actually showing them pictures of you, or potentially like your family or your spouse or your business or like whatever it is. So because I think this masculine has potentially seen certain things. So he's heard certainly that you are beautiful, or that's his like assessment, as I'm hearing like you're more beautiful than ever. Like you just keep getting more and more and more beautiful to me. Like, which again, I think is a function of this like spiritual connection, and also this feminine energy, like is beautiful on the inside, but beautiful on the outside too. And it's just this like natural effect. So they've heard that you are looking really good, and that you are doing really well for yourself. I'm actually hearing the song Thriving by Ryan Caraveo. Such a good song. You should totally listen to it. But there's this part in it where he's like, used to ride in that Buick, pretending it was Mercedes. Poof, made it reality. Used to be just fiction. Mama, look, I'm finally a magician. Everything I envision happened like abracadabra. So this masculine is really hearing that this feminine is making her dreams reality. I don't know if he knows what manifestation is, but essentially this feminine is like a badass at that. Like she really is calling her dreams into reality. So she's thriving. And he is hearing that she lives some kind of like simple, elegant, happy, stable existence that is very fulfilling, not just to her, but to the people around her as well. This is also a feminine whose definition of success, she would not consider herself successful if like she was doing well, but then the people around her are not doing well. So this masculine is hearing that she's very giving, very loving, could actually be hearing that she's with someone else, like potentially married or in a very committed relationship. He could hear that she is pregnant, or that she has a family, or that she's growing a family. But if not, he's just hearing that she's like growing and thriving, and just doing really, really well. Now, this is actually having a funny effect on this masculine, and I want to call it like some kind of divine, I don't know, frustration. It's like he doesn't really want to see it. It causes him some kind of headache because it bumps him right up against his own reconciliation process. Because again, he has to account for the fact that he misunderstood something here. Because I think it also bothers him on some level that she is doing so well, because she seemed to do well after she cut ties with him in some way. Like he is making that connection, like, oh, she moved away from me, and then all of a sudden, like she started blossoming, she started growing, she started doing better, she started getting better, and then she drew in like the love, the family, the everything that I thought only I could give her, right? And that is hard for this masculine to look at, but he's meant to look at it because it's been his own selfish approach to these things that has actually driven this feminine away to begin with. Now, I think there's something here about like this whole journey from surviving to thriving, because I think he's also heard that I think this feminine comes from some kind of like really difficult circumstances, and this seems to like predate this masculine. Like she had, I don't know, like some kind of strife, maybe like a very competitive, hostile environment, maybe a very argumentative family, or coming from a place where maybe there literally is wildfires, or there's a lot of chaos in the environment where she's from. But again, this feels like overall in her life. So he's heard that she's really has like made the most of her life. Like literally this is a fighter. But I also think that between the two of them, something went down here that was unsavory. Could have been a third party, could have been a big volatile fight or argument, some kind of chaotic energy between the two of them, and she moved away from it. And then that's when everything has started thriving, because this masculine actually, I think, has been watching this feminine for quite a long time. Like he kind of keeps tabs on her, because again, he has this like strong knowing where he quote unquote has heard that she's his and that she's coming back. So he's kind of looking at it through the lens of like, when are you coming back? Right? Like, And again, this is one of those paradoxical things, which, by the way, is like a hallmark of spirituality. It's usually like what is true, spiritually speaking, is usually a paradox, because the answer to that question he thinks he's going to find by observing her or trying to assess her situation. And I think whenever he's hearing certain things about her, he's listening through that lens because he wants to be prepared for her. He wants to show off for her whenever she comes back. But the thing is, she will come back when he has dealt with what he needs to reconcile. Because at the center of whatever karmic, I want to say bullshit, has gone on here in like a past life, central to this is this feminine's protection. And there's a lot of different ways that could shake out. I think this masculine is called to be a protector. He actually does want to protect this feminine. Problem is, he just doesn't understand what that means. He has a very rudimentary understanding of that, which we'll talk about here in a second. But part of this feminine, what this feminine has to reconcile, is actually in response to what this masculine does, which we'll talk about here in a second, because the cause of all the trouble here is actually this masculine's energy. So he needs, if he can reconcile himself, because this is a masculine pulled in two different directions, which I think this feminine is hearing or starting to understand. And he needs to reconcile that within himself. And now if he does that, then they will be together, I think. But if he doesn't, she then has to reconcile the image of him that he is presenting, not just to her, but to other people, and the reality of who he actually is. Because not doing that, I think, does put her in some kind of like upsetting position or danger. And again, we'll talk about that in just a second. So yeah, he's just hearing that she is living her best life. He knows she's at a distance from him. I think this is physically, but definitely emotionally here as well. He could be hearing that she has a different perspective. He's hearing there's some sort of paradox about this feminine as well, where it's like, yes, she is very stable on the material realm, but she has these ideals almost of some kind of like revolutionary, where she like actually does believe in humanity and she wants everyone to do well. And maybe she has these like big ideas and maybe is counterculture in some kind of way, and maybe is a mouthpiece or some kind of a leader for that. There's just this kind of like, I'm successful, but I'm also relaxed, and I didn't become successful by stepping on the heads of others. I came to be successful because of like adhering to the truth of who I am, which is another thing that is bumping against what this masculine has to reconcile within himself, because he is actually very selfish. And again, I think he gives a different impression, but he actually is selfish, because I think he has, whereas this feminine is like, we can all make it. I hope we all make it. This masculine actually has more of a dog eat dog kind of a version of reality, but he doesn't want to come off that way, but he actually does have that. And I think this masculine has become successful, but it almost feels like in name, like there's something about him, like his status, maybe his appearance, his body, his position, his name, something like that, where it seems like, okay, he's achieved some level of success and possibly like through his work, but it's not genuine success. He's not actually free. He's not actually happy. Because this is a masculine with skeletons in his closet, who is potentially another part of that song, Thriving. He says, and that's just 10% of the ways that I got paid. The other 90% I gotta take to the grave. So he's done some things potentially that he's ashamed of, or that could potentially be illegal or something, in order to get where it is that he's at. So it didn't, like his success, whatever this masculine has that she potentially is hearing about, it didn't ultimately bring him peace. And that's like the difference. And also I feel like this masculine potentially, it's like, even if he does have some kind of semblance of success, he might not have something to genuinely actually show for himself. Because I can see here that it's like something here drains him, and he has like tremors that eventually lead to like bigger tower moments that again like drain him again of like esteem, finances, and we'll talk more about that here in just a second. I just want to make sure if there's anything else. I think they both hear quite a bit about each other's work. I think there's like a hard like work ethic or something like that, but again, this feminine is doing something that's like very fulfilling and resonates with her on multiple levels. So now let's actually move on to this masculine side of things. And for me, this is where this reading starts to get really interesting, because it's almost like this masculine is kind of a case study of, it's like he's built his life as a monument to the differences between material success and what I would call genuine success or spiritual success. Because genuine holistic success that is truly success on all levels brings you a sense of peace, and it brings you a sense of rest and a sense of fulfillment. But I don't think this masculine has that, because I think he's cut corners, and I do think he has skeletons in his closet, and he's built something here that, even though it gives him like a name or the appearance of success or something like that. It's like he always has to try and keep it up and like, maintain it or make sure that his secrets from the past like don't come out, something like that, and there's also, I just had to pause the video because my little Luna cat came to make amends with me. We're actually really big on that, even with the cats. Like if we get frustrated or we get upset, we all try to make amends with each other, and it's so adorable. But my cats are the same way, and she was very insistent on making amends for something like earlier. So I do feel this masculine is like genuinely sorry for something, and like really does want to apologize. I'm hearing again in that song Thriving from Ryan Caraveo, the second verse is something like, I am oh so sorry, I have been oh so selfish, been living my life not too involved in no one else's. And there's something like, yeah, it's like old habits that die hard, doing anything to get some rack. So I feel like this masculine does have these kind of old habits where, like, again, he's been very selfish. And I think potentially these are masculines that have overcome some sense of like financial insecurity in their life. And I think this feminine has heard something about this, like about this success. She probably has heard that maybe he is successful, maybe he has made a name for himself. I think it's maybe more on the 5D and like intuition that is coming through to say like, it's not genuine. It's not that holistic sense of success, because there's quite a lot of drama and just tower moments and things that kind of, there's not really a lot of peace here in this masculine's life. So I think she is hearing something about that he is sorry for the way that he treated her. And that also he cares about her and that he does love her, because I think she could have gotten the wrong impression, because something very volatile could have gone on here, could have been a very messy ending, or there could have just been cheating or like a third party situation that left her feeling like he didn't love her and he didn't care about her, and maybe he wanted somebody else or like a different kind of lifestyle, but it is coming through that actually he does love her. It's just like, he has this different worldview than hers. It's very dog eat dog world, and we'll see how that kind of builds upon itself here in just a second. So getting into like this masculine side of things now, the reason I said that it becomes interesting to me is because this is where for me we start getting into the more spiritual aspects of this reading. And the way I want to start this is like it's coming through that there are different binding agents in the universe. And of these binding agents, love is the strongest one that like pulls souls together. And that is what makes this connection between this Empress and this masculine energy a soulmate connection, is because love is the binding agent between the two of them. That's why this feels so strong. That's also why this is a healthy divine connection. But the opposite of love, spiritually speaking, is the energy of fear. And fear can be another binding agent that kind of creates a gravity of its own. And that's what I feel like we see here having cropped up around this masculine, and as to what I want to describe as this karmic formation. And this karmic formation that basically this masculine has created through not reconciling the fault line that that divides his own heart. Like essentially this is a masculine pulled in two different directions. This is why most of this reconciliation work that we're talking about needs to occur on his side of things. And how he meets that energy very much depends on the reconciliation work that this feminine actually does need to do. So what I'm describing is this karmic formation that has popped up around this masculine's energy. There's a few different things that kind of hold this together. The first is, for all these people that are involved in this, they all in some way, shape, or form have an interest in creating some sort of like image or facade, instead of actually engaging in the longer term process of genuine self-transformation. That's going to be a lot more frustrating and a lot more difficult. And they would also have to admit to themselves their own folly or their own beginner, like they're beginner in certain things, because these people also want the fruits that comes with appearing to be something great. And they all want to appear to be, whatever it is that they want to appear to be, but they want like the accolades or the praise, the opportunities, the money, whatever it is, right? But they're trying to take that shortcut, which of course is that devil energy of taking the shortcut at the expense of like long-term stability, long-term success. As we know with devil energy, it just ends up taking for you. Usually it's a trick, usually it's a lie, and it's no different here in this situation. The second thing that kind of maintains this gravity of fear in this karmic formation is a sense of competition. All of these people, derive a sense of self-identity through competing with others, and through assessing their own position relative to the positions of other people. So they want to kind of be above other people, be doing well relative to other people, which we've already said is antithetical to this feminine energies worldview. She has the opposite worldview. So this is a vibration and a belief that this masculine holds, which pulls him towards karmic relationships and away from his divine soulmate. He needs to rectify that before he can reconcile with his divine feminine energy. They just don't vibrate the same. So there's this strong sense of competition. And I think that there's even a strong sense of competition here amongst these people who are a part of this karmic formation. I also think there's a sense of like a destructive sexual energy that kind of centers around competition, because we've seen this before with this divine feminine's energy. She's very cooperative, and her sexual energy is really positive. You know, she wants to uplift with her sexual energy. She's not trying to compete with other people or tear other people down. But these people have more of that tamasic competitive energy in their sexuality. Again, it like derives a sense of importance or a sense of self. The last thing that I'm really seeing that contributes to the gravity of this binding agent of fear here is a sense of mutually assured destruction. Now, because there's no actual love here, and I'm not talking about that there's no positive feelings, or sometimes they crack jokes that make each other laugh, or on a certain level their personalities jive, or that they benefit in some way. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about love. Love being a sense of selflessness. Because there's not that sense of selflessness here binding them together, there's also this sort of need to kind of get their hooks into one another. So in a almost unconscious way, because a lot of this goes on unconsciously here, they create this mutually assured destruction scenario where if anybody actually lives up to their soul's desire here, because each one of these, you have to understand, each one of these people are karmic to the other one. They're all karmics to each other. They all have this effect where they're pulled together and then pulled away from their divine path, away from their divine soulmates, all of them. So in a sense, they're enemies to one another. They're hidden enemies, and they're certainly not contributing to an overall positive sense of well-being, even if they do craft some kind of material success, image, you know, whatever, money, skyrocketing success, whatever. So instead, they craft this sense of mutually assured destruction, where if anybody actually does get the gumption to try to break free of whatever this is, they have somebody here has dirt on them, or it would create some kind of massive tower moment. So they kind of stack the odds in their favor, where they can't follow their heart here in this situation. Now, let's talk about the principles here of this karmic formation, because this is something this feminine energy, I feel like, needs to reconcile, needs to understand here as like a part of her this spiritual work. This is a part of her rectifying this like image that he tries to put forward, but then what's actually going on, right? So this karmic formation essentially has a mind of its own. It's not that, again, like all this is very unconscious, being created from like the energy of fear. It's not like all these people are thinking like, let's just be incredibly destructive. None of these people understands the ways in which the consequences of their own actions and their own perspectives. They don't understand that consciously, because they're not, that's what I would call being on a spiritual path. So this karmic formation essentially has a mind of its own. It has certain properties that it has that kind of prop it up and keep it going. And the fear here is its fuel. Now, in this karmic formation, there are 3 positions. Essentially, there are 2 positions, but for the sake of simplicity here, there really is kind of like 3 positions. And that reminds me of the drama triangle, which is the victim, rescuer, persecutor dynamics, especially in narcissistic relationships, where again, you have a strong sense of selfishness. And keep in mind those positions. Once you're on that triangle, you switch. So again, I think that's part of the competition here, but they all play victim, rescuer, persecutor to one another. And those roles very much switch, and it's how they all get baited into this drama that they all very much benefit from. And we'll talk about that more in just a second. But now, there, like I said, there's 3 positions here, but I still think that there could be more than just 3 people involved in this karmic formation at any given time. It's just that they enter the formation via one of these positions. Now, this whole karmic formation centers around this masculine. So we're going to talk about his position first. And I'm sure that if we did a deep dive into any of these other karmics, then their own karmic formation would center around theirs, but we're just going to look at this masculine, okay? Keep in mind. Now, this masculine, the start really of all of this, and of his fear energy, I think this masculine is somebody who has dealt with like poverty or like lack in terms of like material resources. And this has created a real goal in this masculine. He wants to strong arm and domineer this King of Pentacles image for himself, both externally, but also internally. Now, having an internal image, false image of being a King of Pentacles means that this is a masculine who is invested in maintaining his own delusion about his own behavior. This can potentially make this masculine capable of a lot of manipulation. I think this feminine is bumped up against this, where this masculine, we've seen this before, has a good heart. I think this is hard to understand about him for a lot of people that are involved. He seems to have a good heart. He doesn't want to hurt anybody, yet he still has this very harmful, destructive effect. And it's because he is trying to maintain this false image, but also his own delusion, which makes him very manipulative. He's also trying to sweep. This is a masculine who has skeletons in his closet, okay? And some of these skeletons are full-blown people who have been treated very wrongly and will not go quietly into that good night. Neither should they. They need their justice, or they need an accounting for it. They need an explanation or something like here in this scenario. But he thinks that he can keep his past hidden, especially from this feminine, that he has had to cut corners in order to get to success, but once he achieves that, everything's going to be all good. And that's what I mean. He has no peace, and he always has to kind of keep himself working on propping himself up, right? So, okay, let's talk about like maintaining this King of Pentacles image, right? It's a very clever way that he tries to kind of, domineer this. The first, I do feel like there's a sexual component, okay? And keep in mind, I'll keep saying this about this masculine. This is a masculine that is pulled in two directions. That's something he needs to satisfy and rectify, reconcile really within himself. Part of that is his own sexuality, because this is a masculine who views sexuality primarily through the lens of preference. Now, don't get me wrong, preference is definitely a huge part of sexuality. It's just not the whole picture. Another highly significant piece of sexuality is consequence, right? Can you think of a single other human action that we all regularly participate in as a part of our own genuine humanness? I'm not talking about anything weird or taboo like, ending another person. That's not a regular part of human life. That's a weird thing that some people do because they're messed up. But I'm talking about like a regular part of human life. It's hard to think of something more consequential than sexuality. It reminds me quite a bit of like here in America, we have this concept of freedom, right? An original like ethos and thought around maintaining freedom is that there's two sides to that coin, rights and responsibilities. Now, you don't hear that talked about in America. We were actually supposed to have two statues of liberties, one in New York Harbor and the other one in San Francisco Bay. One in New York was meant to symbolize our rights, but the other one in San Francisco Bay was meant to symbolize our responsibilities. You have to have both, right? And, it can be argued that we have suffered from not building that other one, right? But sexuality is the same way. It's like, yes, sexuality is preferences, but it's also consequences. Now, this masculine is primarily like he's good-hearted, right? But he lives in his ego. The ego, we've talked about this, runs and sees the world through preferences and aversions. Now, I've just thrown one of those words out there, preferences. He has a preference here. His sexual preferences are to run all over the place with it. He likes variety. And he is merged with his preferences. That's something the ego does. The ego thinks it's you. So he thinks that he's just a person. It's who he is. He wants to just run around and be with a lot of different people and like satisfy himself. And he feels genuinely tread upon if someone suggests that he should not do that. He feels like they're doing that to take something away from him instead of simply asking him to consider the consequences of his actions and to consider that we are all actually as adults responsible for the consequences of our actions, and to consider that anyone with actual empathy, that actually changes the equation for them. Once they find out that their consequences have hurt people, it's less fun. It's not actually enjoyable. That's this feminine's energy. It isn't enjoyable for her when people are getting hurt. That would be a burden for her. So why is he's not treating people as people, because he feels like his preferences and his right to those preferences is like the highest form of, it needs to be maintained above all else. And he doesn't feel responsible for it because essentially this is a man that feels like God made him a hypocrite. He feels like God made an error in making him. Not that God planted him in the soil, because essentially, spiritually speaking, we're all salmon jumping upriver to reunite with God. He doesn't see it as like his own path that he has to, again, like rectify. He doesn't even begin that process because to him, That's just who he is. And he wishes that he could just explain to this feminine and frankly everybody else involved in the situation that it's meaningless. It doesn't mean anything. It's just this sexual need that he has. And because in his mind, it's like this feminine, this divine empress here has his heart. To him, again, this is a very immature perspective, because to him, this feminine will always has his heart, and sex does not actually link up to love. Like it is an expression of love with this feminine energy, but then like over here, it's like genuinely meaningless. And to him, it's like her position in his life is not threatened. But I'm telling you that's an immature attitude, because of course it is. Remember when I was telling you that this masculine's protector function is busted? Like he wants to protect her, but he doesn't understand it because he doesn't understand consequence. So what that looks like, not understanding consequence in sexuality, right, is he could say he gets somebody pregnant. That's what sex does, right? Imagine using a saw and not understanding that it cuts things. So you have to be careful with it, right? Like you have to learn how to use it well. Well, sex creates children. So yes, even though he feels like, well, it's just nothing. Well, maybe it's something to somebody else, and he ends up getting somebody pregnant. And then the life that they're trying to build together, their home, saving, like having their finances go towards a home and retirement and their children and their children's education and vacations and having good food and a good life. Well, now some of that has to get siphoned out of building that dream together in order to support a consequence that this masculine's selfish, pig-headed energy created, right? Another one is disease, the risk of illness. He doesn't see his protector function as protecting his beloved and his family, potentially, from contracting a communicable illness, or even just the freedom of worry from that. He doesn't see his protector function as protecting the peace of mind and the sanctity of his family, of having his family potentially ripped apart, of potentially having somebody out there who has pictures of him that then like harms his beloved because they get to now make fun of her or like degrade whatever it is that they had. Even though that's not how he feels, that's certainly, she is now subjected to ridicule. That's what I'm saying. It's consequence and his own like sexuality that is like not understood here. So he gets himself involved in these relationships that frankly all kinds of people are drawn into this, like even empresses themselves who just don't see this clearly, because this is a masculine who keeps secrets, thinks that he can do that. But every once in a while this karmic formation will kick up a karmic here that, just like this masculine wants to domineer this like King of Pentacles image, they want to try and domineer an Empress image for themselves via this masculine. And because he's so sloppy with his sexuality, they see a very easy opportunity to do it, right? Because he's not thinking. This is all very headless. There probably is like a lot of partying, maybe substances. It's mindless, right? So there's a lack of consciousness, which consciousness is the light on a spiritual path. This masculine needs to get real and get real quick. You know what I'm saying? Or he is going to suffer consequence, karma and consequence, right? Now, the other way that this masculine tries to kind of like domineer this King of Pentacles, first of all, he's trying to hide all of this, right? Like, oh, it's just a part of me, but I'm going to live in sin and live as a hypocrite because I really don't have any other choice. That's a lie, right? That he's not dealing with. And he doesn't feel like it's a part of his adult responsibilities to reconcile. We've already talked about that. The other thing is that he's created as a part of his karmic formation to keep him living in delusion, is that he surrounds himself, probably unconsciously, but there is a method to this madness. To every chaos, there is an order. He surrounds himself with people who are in some way more volatile, more destructive, more unstable than he is. So externally speaking, when you're looking in at this peer group, or if this is like a work environment, this masculine at first glance, and even like beyond first glance, far and away looks like he has his stuff together. He looks like the King of Pentacles. He looks like he's responsible, that he's stable, that he's level-headed, that he's a leader. Because comparatively, he genuinely is. Now, internally, this serves his own internal delusions because these people are coming from a place of neediness. They all approach him to ask for something, like at some point, right? These people require something of this masculine that the King of Pentacles theoretically should have. So these are people who maybe need a job or need some kind of stability in their life, housing, stability, some kind of father husband figure. Again, he's very attracted to that. Again, you're setting yourself up for cheating, because if somebody needs like a husband father figure, he's attracted to the image of himself in their eyes. So even though it means nothing, it still reinforces that King of Pentacles image, and he can get drawn into that very easily. But another big thing that people come to him in need of is advice. And here's where this gets again confusing and frustrating and a little bit hairy, because there's something about this masculine energy that is genuinely impressive. Okay, and I think this feminine has heard about this, okay, in some way, shape, or form. Genuinely impressive. He has overcome the circumstances of his birth in some way, shape, or form, which required a lot of, again, competition, a lot of drive, a lot of get up and go, a lot of kinetic energy, a lot of striving, right? And he's managed to get himself, this is a masculine who sits on the precipice from surviving to thriving. And just like that rocket ship that's going to blast out of the atmosphere, it requires all of this kinetic energy, right? But as that rocket ship blasts through into space, it's a completely different environment. And that rocket actually needs to function differently in order to function well in space. He needs to learn a completely different modus operandi. Well, he's very reluctant to do that, okay? As that rocket bursts out into space, the thrusters kind of fall back to Earth, right? Because they don't need it anymore. There's no gravity in space. The circumstances has changed. Same thing for moving from surviving to thriving. There's a lot more, especially at first, it can be very jarring because it's been so distracting and there's always fires to put out and you're used to go, go, go. And now all of a sudden, maybe you have a lot more free time. Things kind of settle down. And this is a healthy, positive change because you can create with this Empress, children, stability, things in the long term, genuinely King of Pentacles. However, part of this, with this masculine trying to craft this image of the King of Pentacles and then creates situations where he's always reinforcing that false image, means that when people come to him for advice, yes, on the one hand, because of everything he's navigated impressively, he can, on the one hand, give very helpful advice. But it's more like advice of, okay, how to navigate very hairy situations, how to get from A to B, right? I'm having this problem, I'm having this catastrophe, how should I navigate this well? He's very good at that. But because of his position, because he's almost blasted into the atmosphere and he can see far and wide, he should be able to see that there's something about these people that again are very volatile or very destructive, their approach, their perspective on things that actually produces problems to begin with. So he can see that unless they adjust their perspective on something, it's going to produce another problem. So instead of being the King of Pentacles, what he actually is codependent. Because he gives people enough advice to satisfy them for now. It's a band-aid. And he knows they're going to have to come back for them, thus keeping this formation into place. If he's going to repay these people's karmic debt, his karmic debt to these people, I do think he actually owes them good advice. Good advice that makes them independent of him. That's everybody's soul contract here. To become independent of fear, their own fear in some way, that causes them all to act out in this way and to depend on each other in order to create this false sense of getting their needs met, which in reality doesn't actually end up getting their needs met and ends up taking more than it gives and pulls all of them away from their soul fam, right? This is why they're hidden enemies. This King of Pentacles owes these people, okay, yes, he does need to help them get from point A to point B, karmically speaking. Let's cauterize the bleeding, but then let's look at this from a different perspective. Now that perspective is in you and you can take that forth and rely upon yourselves, right? With your own journey. And then he is free of obligation here and he can actually start thriving. But the issue is then, if he's with this Empress, that's where this is going to go. It's going to lead away from this turmoil energy. It's going to pop him up into this energy of thriving, which, when he's in that energy, there is going to be genuine King of Pentacles energy around. And he's meant to be inspired by that, to learn a different way of being. Look how these people interact with their own masculine energy. This is a masculine energy that is genuinely protective and can be built upon, right? It's protective. It means that people have a chance at actually taking root, actually creating, actually putting themselves into the world more. And I want to learn how to do that. So I'm going to be humble. I'm going to ask questions where I'm confused instead of trying to act like hot shit. Because in doing that, he's always going to feel that sense of lack and then he's going to run right back to this karmic formation to keep this going. And I think this feminine kind of needs to reconcile this because there's a real sense here that he would harm her. He would cheat on her. When she's thinking everything's fine and she's growing and she's expanding, or potentially even when she's pregnant. This is nasty. This is negative, and it's going to cause a lot of pain, a lot of turmoil. I really do think there's a specific karmic here who will make damn good and well sure this happens, that his secrets are like aired, and she or he, like whoever this is, plays kind of a divine role in that, because this can't keep going forever. It's like not healthy for anyone. Even if this person kind of comes from, again, their own sense of competition, because they definitely will want to be hurting this feminine. You don't want that to be the way this is discovered. I'll tell you that much. Because they do want to wound this feminine. And this masculine left her right the fuck open for it. So fuck him. Anyway. Yeah, like, so this is deeply upsetting because she doesn't deserve it. And that's why protection is like such a central theme to this. Now, the other part of this karmic formation is like, frankly, he's just bored. So when he's always having to rush off and solve these like big fires for people, you can't ignore fire. Like when drama pops off, you have to deal with it. You have to kind of like cauterize the bleeding. You have to put it out. So when he's not running around doing that, he doesn't have a sense of purpose, but potentially he can get very bored. And when he's bored and his mind settles, then that's when all of his insecurities can actually come up. Now, this is an opportunity, but you have to have the right perspective to understand that that is an opportunity and to dive into that head first. And again, through the energy of love, I think this Empress is equipped, has a very good head on her shoulders, has a very positive perspective, has the advice in order to move this masculine like away from those like negative situations. But she's to be honored and she's to be respected here in this situation. So bringing that back to what she's heard, again, I think like both of these people are hearing that the other one is doing well, maybe especially in terms of like career, but she is also potentially hearing that this masculine is not all he's cracked up to be, that he can't actually deliver, certainly not in the long term, and that she puts herself at risk here, or she's meant to understand this via this reading, via, with the High Priestess here, other spiritualists or other readers or other modalities, or her own intuition, or like having secrets revealed here. Like that's very, very imperative that she knows like this is for him to reconcile and sort out within himself. And he's a show pony of sorts. This is a masculine who's not free. That's the other arm of this karmic formation, because we kind of talked about like the more sexual sides of things, the more social side of karmics. But there's another karmic here. That's the third wing of like, that's the third position. So it's like this masculine who wants to be the King of Pentacles. Then there's these like sexual partners here who want to be attached to this masculine in that way for some reason. And it does vary. Some of these people just want something casual. Some of these people want something more and genuinely are good people, genuinely are empresses. They just cannot see this masculine for what he is, because he keeps secrets and he does that intentionally. And then there's other people here who they match this masculine in the sense that they are trying to domineer their own empress energy. So this is potentially someone who could try to force their hand at that by potentially tampering with birth control in one direction or the other, or again, like trying to be like close in proximity with this masculine, giving hints to this feminine that there's something sexual going on here. She very much wants to stick it to this feminine because again, what binds them together is a destructive sexual energy that has ruined relationships. That's another thing I think you need to see about this masculine. He potentially has ruined relationships, certainly his own. But there's a very specific scenario where he could have actually like gotten someone pregnant who was in a committed relationship or who was married. This is bad. This is nasty, but all these people are destructive with their sexual energy that like get, pulled in over here. But this other wing of it, I think has to do with business. And this is where I was saying there's kind of two positions, because I think these are also King of Pentacles types that want a sense of like financial independence. It's just that they also want to be like leaders, and there's something about it where it's like they're the person with the resources or they're the person with a plan. For some of these people I'm getting, it's like maybe they came from money, but they want to like make their own way or their own name. They want to prove like they have something to prove. Okay. So they have some kind of idea or financing or plan, and they want to pull this masculine in because it's almost like this masculine that you're asking about is like the face of a company, or like the product or the spokesperson, the salesman, the person with like the charisma, right? And he gets sucked in again to this karmic cycle because he wants a quick fix to being that King of Pentacles, where he has money to show off with, money to potentially give to others in a genuine way. He does want to do that as a way of, though, competing and reinforcing his own self-image, and I think trying to impress this feminine. And part of that is, I think whatever's going on here work-wise, it's like there's like little projects, okay? And they pull it in and it's like, okay, we'll just make some money here. So complete this project. Okay, well then just make some money here. Like, so complete that. Because see this pentacle like on the back here? I'm just seeing this horse kind of get drawn in by the promise of the pentacle. So it's like it renews every time. Like they'll close out one cycle, and that's like ultimately what's bridling. It's like he's a show pony, essentially, and he's not free. He's a slave to his own impulses, first and foremost, which then brings him into servitude and bondage to others. It's not a good situation. That's what I'm saying. It has not, for whatever this masculine's achieved, it has not brought him peace. It certainly has not brought him his empress, which he does want. This is another way that he's torn into. He wants his empress. This is, the King of Pentacles is a husband and a father, somebody genuinely stable, somebody who can be in a committed relationship. They do actually want that, right? But then they want these quick fixes and stuff. So he has to reconcile it, and he just doesn't think that it's within his control. He just thinks, oh, well, God made me a hypocrite. Life won't bring us together. And he gets confused about, he knows that she's his. He knows it. And he gets confused as to why he felt that. And he feels punished. And nobody's punishing him except for himself. It's drawing him into a process that he refuses to actually meet because he feels victimized by it. Again, rescuer, victim, persecutor. He maybe feels like this empress is victimizing him by refusing to be with him, even though she knows that he's his partner, or that he is her soulmate. And he wants her to see him as a rescuer, as having the only thing that she needs. In reality, if he's in this unhealed energy, he's a persecutor, and I think he's a real threat to her sense of well-being, because at the very least his protector function is busted, but I think he's the cause of all these problems that could potentially enter her life in all the ways that I've already described. So pile number 2, that is what this person has quote-unquote heard about you on the 3D and also on the 5D. This is an incredibly spiritual connection. You may want to watch this a couple of times just to kind of get the gist of this in order to help with your own path of reconciliation, like within this dynamic, whichever side of things that you really are on. I also think, the last thing I'll say is I think this masculine gets flattered very easily. Like, especially here on the career front, like, oh, you're the only person that can do XYZ. You're the only one. You're the chosen one, you know? Yeah, and potentially like via these sexual conquests as well. It makes him like ruining other people's relationships and potentially treating people like objects and not being concerned about like if he's hurt them or not. Like, again, gives him a sense of self, gives him a sense of power. This is some of that weird like alpha stuff that people talk about. So yeah, I think he's like very easily flattered, but he's got to get real with himself. This is no measure of genuine success. That's what I mean. It's like, sure, he looks successful from the material viewpoint, but not from the spiritual one. He's actually kind of failing miserably. Anyways, I think that's what I have for you guys. If that resonated, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And consider supporting me on Patreon. Consider getting a nice magical candle for yourself. And I'll see you guys later. Bye. Pile number 3, what has this person heard about you? All right, so there's a lot of different scenarios that are kind of peeking through, trying to be covered here in these cards, but there definitely is a strongest energy stream that I can tell I'm meant to focus on here, so I'm going to do that. But before I jump into it, I'll just throw out a couple of very generic scenarios that I'm picking up on here in case that resonates with you. So most of the scenarios I'm picking up on involve some kind of parent-child relationship. So for some of you, this person may have heard that potentially you have a difficult situation situation or relationship with a parent or with a child. For others of you, somebody here could have heard that you are pregnant. For others of you, this could be some kind of a work situation where maybe you have had to leave work or take time off of work because you are pregnant or because of a child, or because you're on maternity leave, or maybe you're becoming a stay-at-home parent, something like that, and you feel like there could potentially be hard feelings because this person maybe feels that they have lost money or they've just missed out, because they're losing you. I'm picking up on those kind of scenarios, so just keep that in mind for those of you that resonates with. But as seems to be the case more and more with my readings, a lot of time what bubbles to the surface is spirit wanting me to focus on maybe a more contentious or difficult situation that they're trying to shed certain light on, show a different perspective, or offer some kind of help, assistance, or guidance to help navigate, if that is helpful for some people. And that's what I'm getting here in this pile. So that's what I'm going to really drill down and try to bring to the surface here. So most of you that I feel like were really drawn into this reading, I'm literally hearing by your guides. They want you to know you were specifically drawn here in order for them to kind of help you through this, and that you are being given help and assistance to the best of their ability. I feel like this is a very delicate situation to try to navigate, emotionally speaking, between yourself and this person that you are asking about. For most of you, I think that you're probably asking about a situation that we've been picking up on the channel here recently, again, between a parent and a child. Now, you could be asking about your child that's like literally a child, or you could be asking about your child that is now an adult. But either way, I feel like these are the kinds of dynamics that we are picking up on here in this particular reading. And because those dynamics are incredibly meaningful in our lives and very sensitive topics, I want to try to wade into this message as carefully as I possibly can. And in order to do that, I'm just feeling this incredible need to set certain ground rules. But the way it's coming through, I feel like that's actually a part of the message. I think that's something that you're supposed to kind of clock me saying, that in order to address this situation, best practice, like ground rules are really, really important. I think you're meant to just hear me say how important that is and mimic that in the conversations you have, if for those of you who are having conversations here, because I can feel how important it is for this person that you are asking about, that there's a little more structure, like to your relationship and to your conversations. So with that being said, I don't think I actually want to spend any time really setting ground rules. I really just want you to know and acknowledge that, look, this is a really difficult conversation to have on the best of days. And I think if you can hear me through that lens and through that filter, that it'll greatly decrease the odds of us misunderstanding each other. And I just hope that you know that this is a difficult message, again, like on a good day, and that I'm not giving this message because I'm trying to judge you or condemn you. This is just the way that this message is coming through, and I trust this process, that this is coming through for the highest and greatest good of all beings, and that's my intention, coming here. So with that being said, let's just jump right in and address this question very directly. What has this person heard about you? Well, I can very clearly see here that, and there's no really easy way or good way to say this, but I don't think that if this is your message, I don't think I'm telling you something that you don't already know. But I can see here in these cards that this person that you're asking about really doesn't want to be engaged here, at least at this current time. And I think for a lot of you into the foreseeable future, that's this snapshot, is like, this is a person who doesn't want to be engaged in this relationship or in this, doesn't want to participate in this conversation, for whatever reason. So in terms of, what has this person heard about you? Well, if this is an adult that you're asking about, I really do think that the answer to that is nothing. That's certainly their ideal answer. I know that's hard to hear probably for a lot of you. But if this is an adult, they can kind of set their life up, the way that they want. And they've probably set it up to where they really aren't hearing anything about you. Now, if this is a child, then I feel like circumstances here might be a little bit different, where they do in some capacity need or, are required to maintain some kind of conversation or contact with you. But I feel like in that scenario, more than likely there's some kind of obstacles here. So it might be the legal system, it might be a legal mediator, it could be a custodial parent, it might even be some kind of like an institution, something like that. And in that case, I feel like, what this child has potentially heard about you, it could be nothing. It still could be they haven't heard anything. But if you have reached out to whatever this intermediary is to let them know that you have something for this child, maybe it's, like a gift for their birthday or a letter or some money, or even you've reached out just to say that, you would like to open up lines of communication here. Maybe you would like to apologize or just share your love in some way. Then I feel like this child maybe has heard in some kind of, cursory way, just very briefly that is that gift is there, that you have reached out. They have heard that, but I feel like the reaction was probably something like, that they're not ready. They don't want the gift, or they don't want to talk right now. They just kind of want to move away from this. Now, going back to if this is an adult, I feel like they're in this stance, right, where they've set their life up where they're not open to having conversation or contact with you. If this is a young adult, especially, I can see that they're trying to start over, they're trying to start new. And again, if they are a young adult, then I feel like they're trying to start this new phase of their life, and they're probably very focused on building up their career, building up their finances, getting a safe space or like their own home, their own sanctuary for themselves. And all of that is something that takes like an inordinate amount of time for them to do. But I'm kind of getting that, when, this adult is able to establish that, then they might be open. Okay, they might soften. And I don't think this will ever be a person who wants to initiate contact with you or reach out to you, but it's like maybe they would be open to hearing a message from you. Not even saying that they would respond. I feel like for a lot of you, there's kind of a situation like that. Now, if this is a child here, I kind of feel like with the Fool card being here, it's like, well, this is a lot for a child to navigate, like whatever's gone on here, or just the complexities of social interaction and whatever's gone on here. I think it is a bit much for their processing power, because if this is a child, obviously they're not 25 years old. Their brain isn't fully developed, especially that prefrontal cortex that is able to kind of like assess situations. And so it would be like incredibly draining and maybe very confusing for this child. And they really kind of just want to be a kid. I think that's what they're focused on. Now, so pulling back from that, because I think most of you were drawn into this reading because like for some kind of higher purpose. And I think this next leg of the reading is really meant to be possibly the more substantial, the more important part, like the reason why your guides really want you. Because again, I don't think I'm telling you anything that you don't know here in this first bit. It's really just kind of qualifying you into the second part of the message to assist you in processing the situation and navigating the situation. Because I think most of you who are here asking about this, you're asking about it because you really would like to reach out. Maybe you would like to apologize or make some kind of amends. But it feels to me like, well, you don't want that attempt at making amends to fall on deaf ears. I can also see that you would like to have some kind of a reciprocal interaction, some kind of reciprocal exchange. So there's a few things here about that I feel like your guides are really wanting me to illuminate. For two reasons. The first one is they really want to come in and help manage your expectations here around this situation. And then kind of through managing your expectations as to what is realistically possible here in this situation, they want to help you redefine what success looks like between yourself and this soul that you are asking about. I'm also meant to highlight the fact that I just said this soul that you are asking about. So especially if this is your child, I think part of this like readjusting and realignment is really pulling back from that lens of ownership and also placing somebody in a position as like being like less developed than you or something like that, because spirit is being very clear, like, look, this is a soul in a body, and in some lifetimes they've been your parent or they will be again. Like, this is a soul in a body, and so we're kind of having you, they want to, maybe that's part of the adjustment in terms of like a lens, is to look at like this soul in a body, right? So those two things, they want to help manage your expectations around what's possible here. And through doing that, they want to help redefine what success looks like here in this situation, so that you don't set yourself up for feeling like you're failing when you're actually succeeding. You are actually making progress. They don't want you to become they don't want you to feel defeated, okay? They want to keep you kind of going on your track. So we have to talk about specific things here. Now, this is maybe the more difficult of the more difficult part of the conversation. I have to call certain things out directly, and we might get into some hairy topics. Keep in mind, please, that I'm reading for a wide variety of people. So some of the things I'll bring up will resonate for some people's situations and not others, but I am getting like very clear messages that I'm meant to bring up because it's meant to be kind of like an aha moment or a place to start for somebody here. But this is an interactive process, and so they want you to be consuming this next part with extreme consciousness and awareness, and to be taking care of yourself. If at any point you feel that this message is more hurtful than helpful for you specifically, you're just being asked to acknowledge that somebody else, this is more helpful than hurtful for them, but just to manage yourself accordingly, meaning like turn off the reading or those kinds of things. Okay, so getting into this next part. The first thing that I feel like I'm really supposed to be bringing to your attention is the fact that there is, let's start with the good news, okay? Because I can very clearly see here that on a soul level, all right, which can be different than what's happening on the 3D. But on a soul level, we really do have two souls here that acknowledge that they love each other very much. They believe in each other's growth and progress. They feel that they have something to learn and receive from one another, and they really would like to have a reciprocal, healthy relationship. And they are both willing to work out the karma and try to clear, like really make this attempt to clear the karma here between the two of them. However, I can see here that that is not exactly what's happening. In fact, I feel like this karmic space that you are meant to be tending to has actually become agitated. And for a lot of you who've been drawn in here to this reading, you have actually begun to backtrack in your progress here with this soul. This is in some way, shape, or form directly related to trust levels here. And I'm hearing trust levels between you are at an all-time low. And that is something important for you to kind of clock and understand that this is a variable that matters to your guides, both sets of guides here in the situation, because it means that progress really isn't possible to the way that it needs to be. So that this state of things where you've started to kind of backtrack, I feel like this is why some kind of divine obstacle was brought in. So your guides really want you to understand that the presence of these obstacles is for the highest and greatest good of everyone involved here in this situation, and it's in service of your soul contracts, and it's in service of what each of you are trying to accomplish here individually, but also with one another. So they just kind of want to reframe that. The other thing that I feel like it's important for you to understand is that there is hefty karma here between yourself and this soul that you are asking about. Now, some of you, it is a direct karma. For others of you, it's more of an indirect karma, but I think for most of you, it is a direct karma. Now, I'm getting a lot of information here about the karmas and the nature of those karmas that need to be worked out here in this situation. But I don't really want to go too deep into that right now because I'm kind of wondering if it would be more harmful than helpful here at this current stage. And I don't want you to become distracted with feelings of like responsibility or guilt or shame, because it's going to shift your focus, I think, at this time away from the more positive aspects of what your guides are wanting you to focus on, and the hope and the genuine progress that can be made here in this situation. But I think it's enough for you to understand that this is serious karma that is being worked out here. And in alignment with that, your guides want you to understand that you were never meant to clear this karma entirely in this lifetime. Okay, you were never meant to do that, because such is the nature of this karma. I think it was, it's not that it's impossible for you to clear this out, but this would be something where you would have really had to hit the ground running and like not make any mistakes, which is certainly possible, but it's like an accelerated path. You're not held to those standards, right? So again, this is a part of readjusting, like managing your expectations as to what is actually possible here. Because I'm seeing it was kind of projected that it would take anywhere from 3 to 5 lifetimes to clear out this karma between the two of you. And that's perfectly fine with both of you. You both kind of like expected that, so long as you are like, headed in the right direction and making that progress. So that what that means on a practical level for you is, I think for a lot of you, you are focused on like what I like to call the Jenga family moment, that Jenga commercial moment where, you're in the living room, apple cider is bubbling on the stove, everybody's playing Jenga, laughing, the conversation is flowing as if nothing ever happened here in this scenario, right? And it's just this perfect family. Well, you need to sort of understand that may not be, that's probably not possible here. That's what it's really not. That's not a reasonable goal for you to have for yourself. And if you keep holding that in mind and then you're not able to hit it, then they don't want you thinking that you're failing, right? Because you're not. They're telling me that, it's actually a better goal for you to have to just focus on making progress here in this situation. And progress for this group of souls is something actually very specific. It's actually working on building trust. Building trust, which is kind of a difficult thing to do. I don't think you're just building trust. I think you're rebuilding trust, which is even more difficult than building trust to start off with. And we're not saying any of this, again, to make you feel guilt or shame or to discourage you. It is actually possible, but you have to understand exactly what it entails to build or rebuild trust. And that goes into the nature of this karma that they want you to understand. I can see here very clearly, this is the kind of karma, there's no quick fix. Okay, this is another thing that they want you to understand. There's no quick fix. There's no such thing. I think, again, some of you are under this false impression that if you can shift this person's mood or even like their perspective on the situation, probably through some kind of cerebral means by like over explaining yourself or, trying to get them on board with your viewpoint of your actions, that somehow that changes the karma in this situation, and it doesn't. That's a very superficial kind of band-aid fix. They want you to understand that there's no quick fix. So I think for a lot of you, what I mean is you could potentially be thinking about this person like, well, if I could just get them on the phone, because I think you believe in this connection that you have. And I think you really, Ganesh is the divine child. I think you got a good one here, to be honest. I think this is like you believe that this person on a subtle level, even if you have your disagreements, you believe this person is reasonable, and probably has a positive demeanor, something like that. You believe in that. So you kind of tell yourself, well, if I could just get them on the phone and maybe we start crying, but if I can just explain myself, then potentially we're laughing and we're cracking jokes and I can get them to smile. And your guides are saying, that's nice. It's all well and good. They're not saying that's not, a small win in of itself. And maybe that's even a beneficial change here. But all you're doing is shifting someone's mood and the karma remains. So that's not actually you doing anything really in regards of karma. Now you're maybe on the right track, it's good that you have these positive intentions, but it's something entirely different to work through this karma. This is the type of karma that has to be, in order for it to be genuinely healed, the only way to heal this is by moving slowly. And there's something here about consistency. And I can see that this has to do with on the side of the parent but it ties into the parent as a soul. There's some kind of change that this parent wanted to make as an individual, like as a soul, as a person. It's like, well, I really wish that I was better at this, and I really wish I could change my perspective on this. And they kind of knew it was a big thing. But then their relationship here with this particular soul, in particular, this parent-child dynamic it's for the highest and greatest good of all beings. And part of that highest and greatest good for everyone involved is that it does give this parent, if this parent can figure themselves out and then show up consistently in that energy, or at least make their own progress towards that, that's what actually ends up healing this soul. I hope that makes sense, how everything's sort of tied together. But that's where the consistency element comes in. There's some kind of like very strong change that this parent's meant to make that's healthy. And if they show up in that energy consistently over time, over the long haul, that is what clears the karma here. And again, this is the kind of long haul where it's like this would take 3 to 5 lifetimes of showing up in that consistent energy for long periods of time. And that is factoring in that you're not perfect. You are not expected to be perfect. You are not being held to unrealistic standards here. This is something that everyone sat down and was like, okay, this feels like a good plan. This feels doable, So this is considering that you're going to make certain mistakes and right. But what's gone on here is you're not on the right path. This is kind of whatever this obstacle is. Yes, it was in order to prevent more negative karmas for being produced here, because that is absolutely antithetical to what you both agreed to and what you're both aiming for here on a soul level. But it's also meant to get your attention that you're going down the wrong path. You are not addressing this correctly. You are not in alignment with your own goals, and it's therefore like kind of having a negative effect on this. And check in with yourself. It's like what you probably know better than anyone who you want to be in this life, like how you want to show up genuinely, right? So they're saying this is meant to be a wake-up call. This is meant to be like sort of come into Jesus moment, as we like to say, where you're kind of checking in and reevaluating, what it is that you that you are meant to be doing and how it's meant to for you to be showing up, right? So just as a recap, we have established very specific things here. We've established that you love each other very much on a soul level. We've established that there is some serious karma that needs to be worked out here. We have established that this, don't try to knock it out overnight. And in this scenario, it's like in one single lifetime. Instead, it's best for you to focus on making progress. We've established that in this scenario, making progress means focusing on building trust. So you might want to literally educate yourself on what does it mean to build trust? What does that process look like? When therapists try to, or mediators try to assist this process, what are the processes that they go through? What are the skills that are helpful for that? And start there. So you're working on building trust. Now they're saying in your pursuit of building trust, okay, try to focus on yourself because, and the ways that you're clearing up your own karma. I think it's like karma with yourself, but also it's just simultaneously clearing out the karma here with this divine child. And it's divine because this is a very divine pairing. Like this is having very high vibrational results pairing the two of you together. So they're saying tie it to your own behaviors, your metric of success. Check in with yourself, like, did I show up in that energy that I know I want to show up as? Did I do that to the best of my ability? Debrief with yourself. If not, what could you have changed? Don't hold yourself to a standard of perfection, right? But that's your metric of success. Don't tie your metrics of success, the way you're measuring your success here, to anything related to seeing a behavior change in this child that you wish to see, okay? And even having a conversation with this child or having the conversation with this child go the way that you think it is, persuading them over to your side. Don't tie it to that. Why? Because we all know that there are higher and lower vibrational ways of behavior modification. This is something that goes way beyond behavior modification. So if you overly fixate on producing a certain result in the material world, you run the risk of sharpening behaviors that are beneath you. This is not an exercise in manipulation and in building your manipulation skills, okay? And manipulation, the definition of that is to handle something with dexterity. This isn't like how effectively can you apply carrots and sticks in order to produce the behavior in the material world that you see fit. No, this is building relationship. And those are two very different goals, okay? And yes, both of them can have a hallmark of having a healthy reciprocal conversation and therefore relationship. But you're on the one hand, if you focus on this applying different tips and tricks, manipulation tactics, carrots and sticks in order to produce this this result, well, that becomes a fork in the road. Because yes, it can still be a similar marker between these two paths, but one's going one way that's very nasty and erodes trust, and the other one is going toward genuinely building relationship. So you're trying to focus on building relationship. Again, bringing this back, the way you do this is your metric of success is your own behavior. Did I show up fully in the energy consistently over time? This time, that time, the next time, right? You're building trust. Now, this brings me to the last thing that I really want to talk about here. And this is this reciprocal relationship that you want to have, or this reciprocal exchange. Now, Spirit is saying very clearly that this desire to have a reciprocal conversation and the actual ability to have a reciprocal conversation are two very different things, okay? Have you ever heard the phrase, this is going to be a little off color, but I'm going to tell you this in the interest of healing. Have you ever heard the phrase, shit in one hand and wish in the other? See which one fills up faster? That's what I mean. You can want to have a reciprocal relationship, but we have to acknowledge that the actual ability to bring our wishes into fruition so often depends upon building skill sets that pull us into alignment with our intentions, right? That's what needs to go on here. And this is a more complicated question. So first of all, in order to get you to the place where you can have this reciprocal exchange that you want, because you need to acknowledge that that's not a possibility now. You can have an exchange, but fundamentally, I just told you that this person doesn't want to have an exchange because trust levels are at an all-time low. So if somebody doesn't trust you and doesn't want to participate, how reciprocal can your conversation be? All it would be is you forcing them into it, which is placing one of you as a tyrant and the other one as the reciprocant of that tyrannical behavior, which means that in order for them to get out of it, what do they have to do? Perform. Well, you're not trying to build a performance artist, not via these means. Put them in a thespian school. That's what you want to do. You're not trying to build some kind of pattern where they feel like they have to perform. Yes, mom. Yes, dad. I agree with you. Even though they really, truly don't. You have to acknowledge that they don't. You have to work to understand each other. right? Which sometimes means leaving things open-ended. Now, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, okay? So again, this ability to have a reciprocal conversation and just wanting to are two very different things. So obviously that ability requires building a skill set, but this skill set just goes way beyond just conversational skills and your ability, because some of you are probably very good communicators, and if it isn't you, it's a partner that you have that maybe is actually very good with their conversational skills, but potentially is very manipulative. That's one possibility here, but just hear me out, okay? What I mean is this is not just a skill set to communicate your side of things effectively. Some of you maybe are very strong communicators, and it's not the skill set to be persuasive and to get someone to come over to seeing things to your side. That's not the skill set that's required to have a reciprocal conversation. Yes, you need to be able to communicate yourself, but before even that, you also have to be able to assess whether or not the time is right to have a reciprocal conversation. If you want to do a controlled burn on a field and it rained the day before, is that the best time and place to do a controlled burn, or should you wait a couple days? It's the same thing in terms of social relationships. Well, in order to be able to do that, you have to give a shit about the person that you are connecting to. And I'm not trying to suggest that you don't, okay? But this needs to translate into very pragmatic behaviors on your part. So I just told you this person's not wanting to have this conversation. There's a myriad of other things, energy levels, because having a reciprocal conversation requires much more energy than just having a conversation or doing this weird tyrannical dance of like, okay, so I've persuaded you correctly, right? You believe my side, and they're like, put their little thespian hat on like, yes, I did. What's the proper answer to get you off my back, right? No progress is made. You are just pushing food around on your plate. No genuine traction has been achieved here. You have to be able to see that. And again, like that's for some of you. Now, the next thing is, even before, like this is all skill sets that we're talking about, right? The ability to not just action through your communication skills, but receptive. How well are you picking up on the other person? How well do you ensure? The goal is much different too. Like having a goal to persuade someone through your superior intellect is very different than having a goal to connect and build relationship, and therefore to make sure that by everybody's own metric, everybody's own admission, their needs were actually heard and considered, and whatever results here factors that in. Now, before you can even do that, and here's the really, really important part. First and foremost, you have to be able to view the situation through the proper lens. Now, this is something we do all the time. Life is a prism, is what I'm getting. And without thinking, we always switch the lens that we view situations through, like almost mindlessly. So you're being asked to bring an inordinate amount of attention to this, like especially here at the beginning, and making sure that you are pairing the proper lens with the proper situation. I'm kind of getting the sense here that probably more than you would like to admit, even to yourself, the lens through which you are viewing this other soul that you are asking about and this situation overall, you look at through the lens of power dynamics. I can tell you 100% that's the cause of your problem. That right there. Now, we've had to peel back many layers of the onion in order to get there, but I can tell you that's the cause of all of your problems, because that is 110 bajillion quintillion thousand% the wrong lens to apply to this situation. So what that means is, essentially, you are not seeing this situation in truth. You're not seeing it clearly. It kind of equates to wearing sunglasses inside your house at night. And you probably have been wearing these sunglasses for so long, and this is probably some kind of defense mechanism, but, like on your part. Because, we won't get into that. So you're looking through this lens, you don't almost realize that other people don't have their sunglasses on. So they are seeing the situation differently. They are seeing more nuances than you're seeing. And those little bits of nuance that they can see and you can't actually leads them to a different conclusion, right? So what's going on here is that you're not seeing the situation clearly. And certainly you are not seeing this other soul clearly. And that might be very shocking for a lot of you, especially if this is your child and you've known them their whole natural life, to understand that you don't actually have a genuine, clear, truthful picture of who this person is, because you're synthesizing everything that they say and do through that lens of power dynamics. Do you know what the correct lens is in this situation? Need. It's need. Behavior does not exist in a vacuum. Behavior is always trying to get at some need. It's true. Sometimes we do have a need to exercise our own self-sovereignty, and that's a healthy part of the human experience, especially you're dealing with it. The goal of childhood is to prepare somebody for adulthood. So that self-sovereignty bit is going to come up more and more and more. They should be able to have more and more self-sovereignty, right? So sometimes that is a genuine, actual need that is being expressed. But that's actually the rarity, is what I'm hearing. For a lot of you, even with this child is throwing a tantrum or they're trying to communicate with you, like in the best way they know how, right? So for some of you, this really is like, let's use our words. And you need to demonstrate that when this child can use their words and can talk about their needs, those needs are heeded. They are helped. Because looking at that through the lens of power dynamics, this can go south really quickly. Where you kind of think that you building trust is really just them trying to get you to capitulate to them or to be in a subservient position. It's just not the truth. It's just not the truth. It's also not what this other soul wants. They have a genuine need that they're trying to get met most of the time. Most of the time. So the way to heal this is to start looking at this person and this child, synthesizing their behaviors, that they're not performing, they're not making this up. They're not looking at, I can tell you this, they are not looking at this situation through the lens of power dynamics. You only do that with enemies. When you look at like a situation through the lens of power dynamics, it automatically places you in opposition with one another. This is about cooperation. So I've given you a lot to focus on, but essentially the starting point to get traction for most people who've chosen this pile and are dealing with a difficult situation is looking through the lens of need, catching yourself when you're looking through the lens of power dynamics, like at your own child, and trying to build trust. Focusing on making progress, which I already said multiple times. In this situation, it looks at on building trust. And the only way to build trust is consistently over time. And I know this reading's already been very long, but again, for those of you with ears to hear and eyes to see, and those of you who are really wanting to rectify this situation, okay? And for those of you who may have an opportunity to open up the lines of communication, because to be honest, and again, I don't think I'm telling you something that you don't already know. It may not be a possibility here for a lot of you to have that, but you can still do your side of things. You can still be working on yourself, because when you get over to the other side, when you and this soul are debating whether or not you believe in the other person, you believe in your ability to actually try this again, whether or not that will be fruitful, seeing the progress that you've made, because they will be able to see it on the other side, may have a huge impact on this. If you genuinely care about this soul and you genuinely want to clear this out, okay? So just keep that in mind. Now, if you're wanting to clear this, I can tell you that Saturnian things are what's actually helpful here, okay? So things of Saturn, like if you are able to open up these lines of communication at any point in this lifetime, that having that approach will greatly help. Saturn means moving very slow. Conversationally speaking, that means talking about safe topics, talk about the weather. Keep conversations very, very short. And then repeat this. Do this for a lot longer than you think is necessary. What you're doing is you're building that emotional trust that they can kind of grow to rely upon. That, hey, every time I talk to pile number 3, we talk about safe topics. We don't talk for very long. It's something that I can continue to do, right? And you're just building up that that's actually the tone between the two of you. You're showing, and I'm hearing actions speak louder than words. You need to demonstrate in your actions anything, because I think a lot of you think you're crafty with your language, or that this is just something cerebral that gets fixed cerebrally, but you're just making the problem worse, because there's something here where I'm hearing, I'm not throwing shade. I'm just saying you've been running your mouth and it'll match your actions. So it's like every time this child, like there's a power thing that goes on here that they think maybe is more important to you. The only way you can change that, I know you don't agree with me. I'm telling you, the only way you can change that is through your actions, slowly over time. That is the only way. So just doing that repeatedly says a lot more than you could ever say using your mouth or some kind of verbiage or any tips or tricks could ever do. It's the only way to change it. The other thing is Saturn does rule over repetition. So, and scheduling. So it's like, if you do open lines of communication and it's like, okay, I know that I talk to pile number 3 every Wednesday or every other Wednesday at 7 p.m. for 10 minutes. Right? So they come to kind of know what to expect. And when you're doing that, again, you do that for a lot longer than you think is possible. And it's never to the point of like, oh, well, I was really like on your side, oh, well, I was really just hoping that we could talk till 7:15 today because things have been going really well, right? If this other soul says, well, it's 7:10, it was really nice talking with you. Thank you. Bye. Or even if you have a situation where they say they want to talk for longer. Remember how I was saying don't tie your metric of success to outcomes here? Like, oh, I think that that was really a good thing that we had a reciprocal conversation, and they were the ones that actually wanted to talk to me until 7:20. I think some of you actually do run the risk of not understanding that even that's kind of like they're seeing how you handle that, because the next time you talk, they might only want to talk till 7:10. So it's still, you still are focusing on, okay, well, I went with it. And again, next time, if they only want to talk to 7:10, that's fine. Because it doesn't necessarily mean you've made permanent changes here. It doesn't necessarily mean that. So you want to try to avoid those pitfalls. Now, the other thing with Saturn is that it rules over like elderly people. And so maybe this soul feels more comfortable around elderly people. And I think you would know who this is. Like if this is your child and there's like grandparents that this child has a very strong connection with, I'm hearing that is a gift from God. Because like spiritually speaking, everybody knew that this was going to be like a very difficult karmic situation for everybody to work through. And every possible help and assistance has been given. And I think part of that help and assistance was, yes, you and this child do have very difficult karma to work through, but their grandparents, probably on your side, if this is your child, this soul is very positive karma with those people. And they probably, like if this is an adult child, it's like they may reach out to maintain contact with those grandparents, and it's an easy rapport between the two of them. So it could be that that's like help in terms of just getting you around them, or a gateway, but a genuine help. But also, if this is a young child, it might help to have a grandparent around just to ease their tension, or to help with difficult conversations, and actually give that grandparent power in the situation. If the grandparent, who on a soul level is an expert in this soul and what they need, and genuinely loves and cares for them, and that's the connection they have, if they say stop, you need to stop. You need to adhere to that. Now, Saturn also rules over authority. So this might be another uncomfortable thing. Not that this whole conversation hasn't been a myriad of difficult topics to talk about. But the difficulty exists in the topic, okay? It doesn't exist in me. It doesn't exist in you. It exists in the topic. This will always be something difficult. And I'm just begging you not to lash out at me or anybody else involved in this scenario. But Saturn does rule over authority. And again, with these obstacles. So for some of you, it might be difficult to hear, but I think it is kind of a blessing, and it actually will assist in this process, having some kind of mediator, whether that is the court system, whether it is an institution, or somebody here who's like an intermediary. It actually does make this other person feel a lot safer and a lot more comfortable, because, or if there's not one, you might want to consider getting one, because I can see that for this soul, it does make them feel comfortable to have a neutral third party who is an authority, who is willing to take ownership of the space here between the two of you. Again, because trust levels are at an all-time low. So that neutral third party can establish and maintain certain ground rules. So if somebody is out of pocket, that authority puts the kibosh on it. And it's probably more effective when that occurs, right? Because this other person, especially if this is a parent-child dynamic, it's like parents have the authority, whether they're right or whether they're wrong, and not enough parents can consider that they're not free of mistakes, and that's actually something they should be teaching their child, is nobody is above making mistakes, and when we make mistakes, we apologize, those kinds of things. That only resonate for some of you, because if you're too in your power, like, oh, well, I don't want them to think that I'm weak, and you think if you teach your kids, or you have a viewpoint that apologizing is weak, or showing vulnerability to people in your family, people who you love, people who are children, really, can't, they don't have control over, you know what I'm saying? Like, then that makes things a lot more difficult. So consider like that authority piece, but then most importantly, Saturn rules over karma, but it rules over, again, the long haul. That's the thing. You have to sort of know that. So if you can keep all of these things in mind, then you have a clearer perspective on making progress. This may never be a connection where you yourself, and I think you're probably the parent, somebody who you really have some karma to pay back here. That's the truth of the situation. You do, by demonstrating a genuine change through your actions. And this change is very much alignment with your own soul and what it is that it is that you genuinely want to be. So through you doing that, you're clearing out your own karma here in this situation. You're making very healthy changes. So this situation is unfolding for the highest and greatest good of all beings. And knowing all of that gives you this perspective of making progress. But okay, I forgot what I was going to say. But what I was saying is, like, this may never be a connection in this lifetime where you feel like you have that Jenga moment of like that easy flow in conversation. You'll probably, if you're doing your work here and you're doing it correctly and you are actually making soul progress, you will probably always have that feeling that you're minding your P's and Q's. or you need to. And you might be tempted when you compare yourself to other families or other situations where they don't have this hefty karma to work out. You may think that you're a failure and that something's wrong, like it shouldn't be this way. But I'm telling you, if you yourself are engaged with a process where you are bringing a level of awareness to your own behavior and how your behavior affects others and affects the space between the two of you, if you are doing that, you will feel like you're minding your P's and Q's. That's actually a sign of success. That's actually a sign that you're doing it right. That you are taking accountability for your own behavior, that you are observing the way that it affects other people, and that you care, and that you are bringing a certain level of awareness. That is normal to do at the beginning of any major change. You have to kind of be observing your behavior. It may always feel like that for some of you in this lifetime, but don't let that tell you that it's a tower moment, or that, okay, yeah, I'm hearing, because that noise, like it sounded bad, but it didn't hurt at all. You know? So maybe there's something here like that. So there's probably a lot more that I could go into here. I could probably write an entire book as to what I'm seeing like unfold in this particular circumstance, but I won't do that. I think that's enough. Some of you may want to rewatch this. Your guides are really trying to get you this information. Again, like I'm hearing, first, remove the log from your own eye. That's a Jesus quote. First, remove the log from your own eye. So if you try to involve in this, that's probably why there's obstacles here. If you try to involve in this, and your first step, and quite a long step to be honest, is not to remove the log from your own eye and make sure that you are looking at this through a clear vision, that you are going to mess this up. You're going to continue to backslide in your progress. That's what this reading is about. It's trying to give you a new perspective, a new vision, a new hope, a new metric to which to judge your own successes by. And to have a realistic understanding of what's possible here in this situation, in this current lifetime, right? But it's worth it. You and this soul both feel like it's worth it to work on this, as is evidenced by the fact that they did incarnate with you and they did agree to be your child. And there's a brilliance to that, because remember everything that I was saying, slow progress, showing up consistently over the long haul, that is perfect to be worked out in a parent-child dynamic. And if you for a moment, this is coming from God. Don't forget Ganesha is the divine child. If you for a moment think this child is anything of yours, you'll mess it up, because there's something of mine. There's something of mine. And this is a service that you do for each other, and that this soul has done for you many times, is you onboard yourself to the earthly experience, and you make sure that you give each other the tools and the resources and the perspectives and the best shot possible at becoming healthy, well-adjusted adults that know how to navigate complex situations. That's a much different perspective than saving face and using your child as some kind of an object, as a trophy of your superior parenting, or whatever. Because, and if they act out in the grocery store, you take it as like a personal offense. Everybody's looking at you like you don't know how to parent. Like, try to move away from that kind of perspective, and instead, okay, we're crying right now. And sometimes we all want to cry in life. This is normal. And I will protect you from people not minding their own damn business and not understanding that sometimes life is hard and parenting is hard. That's where the change needs to happen, right? So you can potentially some of you try to strong arm this child to fitting some kind of weird mold of perfection, and they're a baby. They're a kid, and they're actually healthy and normal, and it's to be expected. And the change should happen in you to help that, so that they grow into adults that know that it's sometimes we want to cry, and that it's not the end of the world. And here are some tips and tools when we feel that way in public that we can employ in order to have the best outcomes for ourselves. That's a much different perspective. Okay, the last thing I'll say too, because remember I said, I think for most of you this is kind of a firsthand thing, but there is a possibility that if you ended up with a karmic that is potentially very manipulative, that person might be giving you advice to deal with this child, but that was the worst possible parent for you to co-parent this child with, because I think that person may give very sophisticated advice, but the heart is missing, and they're actually intending to drive a wedge. We've seen this on the channel sometimes. So for some of you, it's I think even hearing me reframe that for you is immensely helpful, and you kind of need to understand that maybe somebody here doesn't have the highest and greatest good involved, right? And that would factor into other karmic lessons that you are trying to learn, like how to ascertain a healthy partner, and clearing up that karma would clear up all the other karmas, because you would never have brought, so if you had this child with someone else who was maybe healthier and better intended, you would potentially be making better and easier progress because you wouldn't be being led astray. So for some of you, that's just, I don't know, that's coming in here as like an additional layer. If you're like, well, I understand all that, I'm not malintended, I just misunderstand how to like bring these things to fruition, there's just a bit of a warning here that's, you need to pull yourself away from somebody who you've been like listening to, if they're trying to give you parenting advice through the lens of power dynamics, even if that's not you, if it's somebody around you. Or for some of you, it's like, I'm thinking about a certain case that's in the news. It's like they went to get like advice from a person who is a very poor source of advice. Anyways, this reading is long enough. If that resonated, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. We can do this. You got this, all right? And this is a worthwhile endeavor. Okay, bye guys.